Hey guys, Adam Hudson here and welcome to today's training. What we're going to be talking about today is return on investment and why I believe Amazon is something that everybody should be looking at least part of their investment strategy. Now, some of you might be thinking, hang on a second, Amazon's not an investment, it's a business. Actually, I'd probably beg to differ on that one, okay? And the reason I beg to differ is because Amazon is one of those rare businesses that actually acts and behaves more like a property or a kind of investment than it does like a business. See, in most cases, businesses require offices, staff, payroll, infrastructure, all those things that make it a full-time gig. Whereas Amazon really, once you understand what you're doing, is about finding products, getting them manufactured the first time, and then from that point forward, it's just making sure they don't run out of inventory. Think about it this way, when you buy a piece of real estate, most people would class a piece of real estate as an investment, not as a business. But when you really think about it, there's work involved, right? You have to go and research the areas, you have to talk to agents, you have to inspect the properties, you have to get a tenant in, you have to make repairs and all those things. The longer you own the property, the easier it gets to manage, but it still takes some involvement. I would actually state that Amazon is less work once it's established than a piece of real estate is. And therefore I see Amazon as an investment. So what I want to cover with you quickly is all the time I get people ask me, Adam, I've only got a few $1,000s, I'm still in a job. What I'm trying to do is get out of a job and basically change the terms on which I make my money. I'd like a bit more time. I'd like to eventually get to the point where I don't have to go to work if I don't want to. I'd like to stay home more with my family or whatever. So what I want to do is give you a practical example of, even if you've just got a little bit of capital right now, let's say $5,000, I want to run through with you what the options are, for that $5,000 in the normal sense of things, and then what you could do with the same $5,000 if you were to look at something like Amazon. So let's say you start off with $5,000 capital over here. As we know, the banks are paying almost nothing now in term deposits, but they pay about 2%. So if you put that $5,000 into a term deposit with a bank, they will pay you about $100 a year for that privilege. Okay, so $100 a year is not going to change anyone's life. In fact, you're actually not even really keeping up with inflation. If you were to take the same $5,000 and put it into the stock market, even a blue chip stock, something that's nice and safe, right? Warren Buffett says that the average long-term return that an investor should expect from the stock market is about 8%. So 8% of $5,000 is going to give you $400 a year return on your capital, which is widely considered as not too bad. Now, of course, the risk is very different. The risk of you losing your money in a term deposit is very low, and the risk of you losing money in the stock market is moderate. Okay, stock markets go up and they go down, and we all know that. So what I would like you to think about is what would happen if you put that $5,000 into a Amazon product or series of products, okay? Now, my expectation, if I'm going to put money into the Amazon bank, my expectation of return is this, 100%. I want to be getting a 100% return on my capital each year, or I don't want to launch that product. Now that might sound like a crazy high return, but in terms of business, it isn't. Now, before I go into breaking that down, I want to just quickly talk about the risk, because of course, this is another kind of risk to these two. Now, to my way of thinking, when you're educated, and that's what I teach people in my larger program on how to find and source products, the risk is actually quite mitigated, because it's not like you don't have anything for this $5,000, you actually have inventory. Okay, so that inventory, obviously $5,000, we're talking about $5,000 wholesale cost, usually out of China. And in my course, I teach people that we should be selling products for 3 to 5 times what our retail cost. In other words, if you invest $5,000 into inventory, you should be retailing it for anywhere from $15,000 to $25,000 on Amazon. So by the time you take all the costs and everything out, what I want to be seeing is 100% return on my investment. But remember, you have inventory that if it was a terrible buy, you could discount the inventory down to very close to what you actually paid for it and get most of your money back on a platform like Amazon, assuming you didn't choose an absolute dud, which education helps you around. So what I want to do is I want to demonstrate how simple it actually is in terms of numbers to achieve 100% return on your capital. So if you look at it this way, right, $5,000, if you're looking to make $5,000 a year from a $5,000 investment on Amazon, here's the numbers. Basically, there's 52 weeks in a year, right? 52 weeks in a year, which means each week we've got to be making $96 per week profit, or put another way, $13.70 per day, okay? So if you can get your little Amazon business selling $5,000 worth of inventory that you bought, all you need to do is get to $13.70 a day return over 12 months. That's going to give you 100% return on your inventory. Now, to give you another little example of scaling that slightly, my brother and I just launched a brand on Amazon together as as something to do together, a bit of fun. We actually invested $15,000 into kicking this little brand off. And inside of that $15,000 inventory purchase, we actually are launching 6 products simultaneously, right? 6 products. So in order to get to this $15,000 a year return, which is our absolute baseline worst case scenario, but in order to get our $15,000 a year, 100% return on our money each year, when you work it out, $15,000, it's $41 per day in profit that we need to make from those 6 products. If you break that down across 6 products, it means each product has to make us $6.84 a day. So think about that, $6.84 a day per product. Now this particular range of products is going to sell for about $35 per product, and our net margin on that is about 30%. It's going to be a little over 30%, but let's say 30%, which means we make $10.50 on each product that we sell net profit, true profit after all costs, expenses, Amazon fees and everything. In other words, we don't even have to sell 1 product a day, not even 1 product a day. Usually of each of those products, it's almost 1 every 2nd day in order to get 100% return on our capital. Now, my average on Amazon is much higher than 100% return on capital. I do 2-3 times that for what I actually put in for previous products and what I get back on my investment. But I'm just saying, as a worst case scenario, getting 100% return on your capital inside of the Amazon ecosystem is actually quite realistic in my view. Now, of course, I'm in the wealth creation or education business here. I can't say that's standard. I don't know if it's standard. I only know my own results. But what I'm telling you is when you do the math, putting your money into the Amazon environment as opposed to putting it into the bank or the stock market, in my opinion, is a really smart move. So hopefully you've enjoyed that. Hopefully you've thought of some ways to actually grow what little capital you may have. If you have more capital, great. But think about it, start off with a small amount of money. Once you know it works, get a 2nd product. Once you know that works, get a 3rd product. Once you've got a successful case study and you know that it works and you've done it time and time again, the sky's the limit. You can really scale this up really solidly. 100% compounding growth per year, your money grows very, very quickly. Thank you for watching and have an awesome day out there. Bye for now.